rallies.
Welcome to #PHVote 2013 Rappler.
Today on Rappler, devotees of the Black Nazarene disrupt the Mass by Cardinal Tagle in a rush to get to the image. Senator Jinggoy Estrada says the plunder charge against him is an attack on the opposition. And the Supreme Court orders energy regulators to explain why they approved Meralco's rate hike. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. Every January, millions of devotees go to Quiapo in Manila for the feast day of the Black Nazarene. The religious event draws barefoot followers in a procession honoring an ebony statue of Jesus Christ. This year's event takes a different turn. Eager followers disrupt the Mass as they ramp through security to get to the image. Paterno Esmaquel reports.
The same scene year after year.
Kapayapaan!
Until
umawi tayo ng kordero ng Diyos. Baba sa altar. Baba muna tayo. Baba. Baba muna. Patapusin muna natin ang misa.
devotees hijack the Mass for the Feast of the Black Nazarene. Before it ends, a group goes up the stage to take the miraculous image. This is the first time devotees did this. The parish priest of Quiapo Church says the devotees are more intense this year.
Ang suspecha ko lang, I'm not the expert, grabe ng kahirapan nating bayan at saka yung pinagdaanan nating mga kalamidad.
Quiapo Church officials estimate 12 million people pack the streets of Manila for the Feast of the Black Nazarene. Men and women, young and old, try to climb the carriage that bears the centuries-old image. Devotees risk life and limb. This year, health workers report more than 1,000 emergencies. Filipinos view the Black Nazarene as a symbol of their suffering.
Eto, sa papamanata, parang gumagaling. Nakita ko lumalakas ang kapatid ko.
Parating good health ang pamilya.
Para mabuong pamilya at saka mapetisyon na.
Manila Archbishop Luis Antonio Cardinal Tagle reminds the faithful to go beyond their personal needs. He tells them to pray for disaster victims, including those affected by Super Typhoon Yolanda.
Ang nakakaalaala sa Diyos, makakaalaala sa kapwa.
He also says Catholics should denounce corruption.
Every year, the Feast of the Black Nazarene shows us millions that long to touch a Savior. Now the question is, if this devotion makes us a better neighbor. Paterno Esmaquel, Rappler, Manila.
The Nazarene procession leaves behind a trail of trash in its wake. Pia Renado reports on the cleanup after the overflowing devotion.
There's a plastics ban in the city of Manila. Did it have any effect on the garbage collected on the Feast of the Nazarene? The MMDA seems to think so.
Malaking epekto. So parang nakukuha lang naman namin dito yung inaano natin, mga styro, then yung may mga konting plastic din, pero less na, unlike before na talaga napakaraming mga plastic.
But it's a different story on the ground. Despite the ban, vendors still use them.
Kasi yung plastic, marami nagagawa yung plastic. Katulad na lang yung tubig, hindi mo malalagay yung tubig sa papel.
They say they don't know it's illegal.
Hindi pa kami aware dun.
Some street sweepers say they do not feel the effect of the ban.
Pareho lang. Last year, ganito rin yun. Ayan, yung dami, mga plastic, mga styrofoam. Mga pinag-anuan ng mga vendor.
Kuya, alam niyo kung may plastics ban ngayon sa Manila?
Hindi ko alam. Hindi ko nabasa yung batas na yun. Sa'yo ko nga lang nalaman eh.
The millions of barefoot devotees do not seem to mind the garbage. A devotee for 6 years, Arjo says it's part of the sacrifice.
Bawal palang sumalang dyan ng nakasapatos. Ngayon, iniisip ko kung bakit. Yung pala, si Jesus daw pala, kumbaga talagang nagsakripisyo siya.
Garbage trucks and street sweepers followed the procession as faithfully as the devotees, picking up their trash along the way. Last year, the MMDA collected 32 truckloads of garbage. This year, the MMDA expects less garbage because the city government confined vendors to designated areas.
The Black Nazarene is a procession not only of religious images and devotees, but of a legion of garbage trucks and street sweepers. This year, as in the past years, plastic bags, styrofoam cups, and candy wrappers hound the heels of the procession. Where the devotees and vendors are, the trash is sure to follow.
It's a time of the year when sanitation takes a back seat to religion, and a long way to go when cleanliness will be next to godliness. Pira Nada, Rappler, Manila.
Public Works Secretary Rogelio Singson defends the bunkhouses his department commissioned for the survivors of Typhoon Yolanda, known internationally as Haiyan. This follows criticism that temporary shelters do not comply with international standards. Sphere, a widely recognized benchmark, says one shelter should provide 3.5 square meters per person. But the government's initial designs fall below this standard. With the construction of permanent homes for millions of survivors expected to take years, Singson says the temporary shelters are better than tents or tarpaulins.
Was this something that was
But
factored in
the
then?
3.5 refers more to permanent shelter.
Oh, I see. This is
Okay.
permanent, and we're talking about temporary.
This is an intermediary. Our thinking was they're better off in these bunkhouses than staying in tents or tarpaulins or
Okay.
where they were.
Yes.
Because you've seen the Tacloban situation. Some people just stay underneath tarpaulins.
Yeah.
Okay. So we felt that this was a lot safer, this was a lot better option while waiting for the permanent shelter.
Responding to criticism that the bunkhouses fall short of humanitarian standards, Singson says it's also an issue of economics.
This is where the economics of it come in. Okay? Do we continue to build bunkhouses, and until when? Because I personally, if we could construct the permanent shelter tomorrow, we don't need the bunkhouses.
Yeah.
Okay? Because it's temporary.
And that's additional expense.
That's an additional expense. Especially now that they want us to construct bigger units in the bunkhouses. If we were to construct 20 square meter bunkhouse, and if it's at 4,000 per square meter, that's already 120,000. You might as well build a permanent shelter.
Yes.
Singson denies reports of overpriced bunkhouses, but says complying with the government's building requirements may be a problem because of the lack of available materials.
That we have not paid any of these contractors.
Right.
So what we're doing now is we're sending our quality assurance units to inspect whether they in fact follow the specifications. I strongly feel that the charge of overcharging, if ever, it is more of under specification, non-compliance to the specifications. Because as I said, the materials are not readily available. So if the contractor cannot find a 0.4 millimeter thickness, he'll probably settle for what is in the market,
Yes.
which might be lower than that.
Yeah. There's also
Senator Jinggoy Estrada says the plunder complaint against him over the pork barrel scam is a, quote, high-level political ploy to undermine the opposition for the 2016 polls. In his counter-affidavit filed before the Ombudsman on Thursday, Estrada denies receiving millions from alleged scam mastermind Janet Lim Napoles. Estrada and two other senators face plunder complaints for allegedly siphoning their pork barrel to Napoles' fake NGOs in exchange for kickbacks. Estrada is a member of the opposition United Nationalist Alliance. He's reported to be eyeing the vice presidency in 2016. In his response to the plunder complaint, Estrada downplays the gravity of the testimonies and documents against him. He says the whistleblowers admitted having no personal knowledge of supposed transactions between him and Napoles. Estrada also says the Commission on Audit and Implementing Agencies are responsible for checking endorsements made for the NGOs. But in a budget hearing in November, Tan said all those involved in the disbursement of funds are responsible. Tan said Estrada's staff signed memoranda of agreement vouching for the legitimacy of the NGOs he recommended. The Supreme Court asks energy regulators to explain why they approved the rate hike of power distributor Manila Electric Company, or Meralco. Various groups filed petitions against the hike, prompting the court to issue a temporary restraining order on its implementation. Meralco said it was forced to buy more expensive power because of the simultaneous outages of its power plant suppliers. In a 5-page order released Thursday, the High Court also orders the inclusion of the operator of the electricity spot market, WISM, and 6 other Meralco power suppliers in the petitions. The court denies the motion of the Office of the Solicitor General, or OSG, asking to be excused from filing a comment on the petitions on behalf of the Department of Energy and the Energy Regulatory Commission. The OSG earlier said it's Meralco's duty to defend itself and the public respondents in the case. 2 petitions against the hike are set for oral arguments on January 21. The power suppliers must file their comments on or before January 20th, the OSG on January 17th. Let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 3, while the United States is in a deep freeze, Northern Europe enjoys pleasantly warm weather. Meteorologists say December 2013 had one of the mildest temperatures in a century in the Nordic countries. Oslo gets its warmest Christmas since 1937, while in Helsinki and southern Finland, the second half of the month was the mildest in 30 years. The change in weather is caused by the same low-pressure area, which plunged large parts of the U.S. and Canada into an unprecedented freeze. At number 7, the White House fights back against former Pentagon Chief Robert Gates, who criticized President Barack Obama and Vice President Joe Biden in his new memoir. Gates' book sends political shockwaves through Washington with his critical assessments of the administration. Gates accuses Biden of being wrong about every big foreign policy issue for decades and says Obama lost faith in his own troop surge strategy for the Afghan war. The Gates memoir is remarkable because of the pedigree of the former defense secretary and his reputation of unruffled integrity. And at number 10, former U.S. professional basketball star Dennis Rodman sings a birthday song for Kim Jong-un in a jam-packed stadium in Pyongyang Wednesday. The North Korean leader watches the exhibition game between the North Korean players and retired NBA teammates with his wife Ri Sol-ju and other officials. It's Rodman's 4th trip to North Korea in 12 months. Rodman's criticized for failing to raise human rights issues or the case of jailed American Kenneth Bae during his visits. The U.S. government has distanced itself from Rodman's visits. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. Every story on Rappler has a mood meter, which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. Click how you feel and your vote comes down to the mood navigator in the middle of the front page. That crowdsources the mood of the day. It also gives you the top 10 stories that have affected our viewers and readers the most emotionally. These 10 stories have gotten the most number of votes on their mood meter. If you take a look today, we've got Palace Shelters. Shelters need not follow the international model. You have 64% angry, 16% annoyed, and interestingly, 9% happy. Another story, the story of the day, as it happens, the live stream of the Feast of the Black Nazarene. You have 54% happy and 18% inspired. This deep green bringing out the mood of the story that's gotten the most votes today. It's a piece by Shakira Sison. Called I'm Not Pretty for Your Pleasure, a piece about women's rights, how labels of women. You have, interestingly, 21% happy, 72% inspired. That green of the story that's gotten the most number of votes today, showing that most people are inspired. That is Rappler's Newscast for today, Thursday, January 9th, 2014. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I'm Maria Ressa. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today. We leave you with images from today's celebration of the Feast of the Black Nazarene.
Pasakayin natin ang patron!